All right, let me take you back to that time when I was just a 10-year-old, living in a house that seemed pretty normal, except for that one night. Man, it was something right out of a horror movie. The evening began like any other. Dinner, some cartoons on TV, brushing my teeth, and then snuggling into bed. My room was a mix of action figures and posters of my favorite bands. By the side of my bed was this little night lamp that gave off a soft, bluish glow. I was deep in sleep when the sudden creak of my bedroom door caught my attention. At first I thought maybe it was just the house settling or something, but then I distinctly felt the familiar sensation of the bed dipping, like someone had decided to sit next to me. You know that feeling, right? When you know there's someone there, but you're too scared to look. My heart was pounding, but I kept telling myself, it's just Mom checking on you. I mustered the courage to peek out from under the blanket, and I wish I hadn't. There, sitting at the foot of my bed, was a boy about my age. But it wasn't just any boy. His face was pale, his hair a disheveled mess. But the thing that really got me, his eyes, or rather the lack of them. Instead of eyes, he had these deep black void-like sockets that seemed to absorb the light around him. It was as if they were portals to some dark abyss. Now what's weirder than an eyeless kid staring at you? An eyeless kid holding a small ornate box. The box looked old, made of dark wood with intricate carvings that shimmered under the soft light of my lamp. Despite the terror gripping me, I felt this strange urge to reach out for that box. But every time I tried, the boy pulled it slightly out of my reach. It was like he was playing some kind of twisted game, baiting me. It felt like hours, this silent back and forth between us, but in reality it probably was only a few minutes. Eventually I blinked. And you know how they say, in the blink of an eye everything can change. It did. He vanished. Yet my sheets still bore the imprint of where he'd been sitting, and the air was thick with an unspoken eeriness. From then on, that night was a secret, locked deep inside me, until the memories echoed back years later. High school years, man. They're supposed to be about awkward dances, bad decisions, and those nights you wish would never end. For me, there was all that, plus a side of supernatural sprinkled in. It had been 5 years since that bizarre encounter, enough time to chalk it all up to a kid's wild imagination. My life was rolling on, and now I had this amazing girlfriend. Let's call her Jess. She was the kind of girl who could laugh off my quirkiest quirks. But even with Jess, I hadn't mustered up the guts to talk about that night. Some things just sound too insane out loud, you know? One afternoon, Jess and I were sprawled on the floor of my room, school books scattered around as we tried to tackle an assignment. Hours ticked by, and we drifted off into that realm between sleep and wakefulness. I think I was in the middle of some dream about acing the finals when I was yanked back to reality by a sharp tug on my shirt. Looking around, I saw Jess fast asleep. But something was off. Her breathing was ragged, her face etched with tension. Suddenly, her eyes snapped open, but it felt like she wasn't really seeing me. She was staring intently at the corner of my room, the place where the walls met the ceiling. Following her gaze, I saw nothing. Just an old Spider-Man poster, slightly torn at the edges. But Jess's hand was outstretched, fingers quivering, pointing at the empty space. "Jess?" I said, a lump in my throat. "You okay?" She blinked, looked at me, then back at the corner. The color drained from her face. "There was a boy," she whispered. He didn't have eyes, just black. Voids. He was there, just clinging onto the corner, watching me. I felt a cold rush of air as the memory from 5 years ago came crashing down. Gathering Jess into my arms, I said, "I've seen him too." And with that confession, the shadows of the past became a shared secret between us. Time, they say, heals all wounds. Or at least it lets you shove those wounds into a closet out of sight. Life continued its merry dance. And before we knew it, Jess and I were proud parents of this bubbly, chirpy toddler, Mia. You'd think that with a toddler running around, all other concerns would vanish. And they did, mostly. We'd temporarily moved back into my parents' house. Yep, the same one with the eyeless boy history. And just my luck, we were back in my old room. The one where it all began. I'd occasionally glance at the corner of the room, half expecting to see that boy, but it remained just a normal, unremarkable corner. But Mia started doing something curious. Like clockwork, she'd wake up at the same hour every night. At first, we put it down to the usual toddler sleep disturbances. maybe a nightmare or the need for a midnight snack. But then Jess and I started hearing her talk. Soft little whispers at first, gradually evolving into full-blown conversations. The topics ranged from her toys to things she'd done during the day. It was sort of cute, this little nightly ritual. Until one night, while Jess and I were drifting off, we heard Mia say, "It's okay, I won't tell them you're here." That got our attention real quick. Peeking into her room, I saw Mia sitting up, hugging her knees and chatting away, looking straight at the foot of her bed. "Who are you talking to, sweetie?" Jess asked gently, masking her concern with a motherly smile. Mia, with all the innocence of a 2-year-old, replied, "The little boy. He's nice. He says he's lost. He keeps looking for his mommy and can't find her." Jess and I exchanged a worried glance, the weight of our shared secret pressing down on us. Could this really be a coincidence? Was it possible that our daughter was communicating with the same entity that haunted our past? One evening, curious and slightly unnerved, I asked Mia, "Can you ask the boy what he wants? Why he's here?" She pondered for a moment, as if listening intently, then said, "He's lonely. He wants to be found." Found? The word echoed in my mind, bringing back the memory of that ornate box the boy had shown me. Was that a clue? A key? And if so, a key to what? As days turned into weeks, Mia's nightly chats became our unsettling lullaby. It seemed clear the boy had a message, a purpose, and it was up to us to figure out what that was. Life has a funny way of coming full circle. Here we were in my childhood home, trying to decipher the mystery of a ghostly boy who just wouldn't let go. The pressure of it, the sheer inexplicableness of the situation, was like a cloud hanging over us. But between work and parenting, the days passed in a blur, until a rainy Saturday afternoon changed everything. Mia was in the living room building an impressive fortress out of blocks, while Jess was going through some old family albums. Curious, I decided to rummage through the attic. Maybe, just maybe, I'd stumble upon a clue. The attic was a relic of memories. Old toys, forgotten paintings, dusty books. And then, tucked away behind an old trunk, I found it. An ancient-looking box. The very same ornate box the eyeless boy had shown me years ago. It looked even older now, its wood darkened by age, the carvings more intricate than I remembered. Holding my breath, I slowly opened the box. Inside, wrapped in a faded cloth, was a black and white photograph of a young boy. A boy with strikingly familiar features. Next to the photo was a small, worn-out diary. Flipping through the pages, I stumbled upon entries that painted a tragic tale. The diary belonged to a woman named Clara. She wrote of her deep love for her son, Samuel, and of their life in this very house during the early 1900s. But there was sorrow, too. Samuel had a rare condition that rendered him blind, and he tragically passed away in an accident at the tender age of 10. Distraught, Clara had sealed his memories and belongings in this box. Tears blurred my vision as I read the final entries. Clara wrote of hearing Samuel's laughter, of feeling his presence even after his death, how he would come to her, asking her to find him, to remember him. I rushed downstairs, box in hand. Jess, Mia, and I sat down, and together we went through the contents. It was as if Samuel was guiding us, wanting us to know his story. "Mommy, Daddy," Mia suddenly said, looking at the empty space beside her. "The boy's happy now. He says thank you." The atmosphere in the room shifted. The heaviness that had lingered for so long seemed to lift. There was a warmth, a sense of peace that washed over us. The days that followed were calmer. Mia's midnight conversations ceased, and there was no sign of Samuel. It seemed he had finally found the solace he sought for so long. The box, now a treasured family heirloom, took pride of place in our living room. A silent testament to a bond that transcended time, to a boy's desire to be remembered, and to a family that listened.